All right. And so I'll go right into Git. I realize I kind of spent a little longer than I really wanted to on that. My apologies. But going into Git then, and again, this stuff is all on the on GitHub right now. It's all on the notebook. So I'm kind of go through a couple things. So first thing is like we're doing version control. This is a lot of stuff that's repeated within the curriculum for section 2, but I'm going to show you quickly some stuff. So know that for version control, we had different options. One version control is probably the worst thing, which I don't know how you guys do this. Basically, just raise your hand if you've ever done this, right? Is you rename the file final to final for real time. Like basically just keep appending like something to the end, say, oh no, new file, version 1, version 3, version 5, you know, all these things. This is probably a bad system, as you can probably tell. 1, you can't never know when you're done. 2, there's not any real meaning to like what is that final. And 3, you can't really compare them really easily. Like what if you made a change in final, but you deleted it in final for real this time, and then you want to re-implement it and okay, this is definitely the final. The problem is you can't easily do that. One solution is using something like Subversion. This has been useful when people would have collaboration. But the problem with Subversion is that you mostly would like lock down a person and say, okay, only this person can edit it at this time. Well, if you're doing that all the time, you can only work on so much at a time, and it just end up making copies of this stuff. So the best one really comes down to a lot of people use Git, and Git is just super, super common. And there's actually a little link I have right here for Stack Overflow. So Stack Overflow did a survey in 2018, and you can see people that use version control, Git was basically the majority. Subversion is kind of old school. You can see even professional developers, you can see here, it's pretty much Git. Like you're gonna use Git. And then there's some weird people who don't use any version control. I don't know why you wouldn't be using version control. But basically, you're going to use Git. So Git's probably the standard at this point. Okay, just kind of know that. This is kind of an XKCD was also in the curriculum, which I think is really funny because basically most people say, hey, Git's really awesome. You can do all this collaborative work. You can do all these things, and said, but I have no clue how it works. I just kind of keep doing the same motions over and over again. That's probably how you guys feel right now. It's like, oh, I use Git, but do I really use Git? I have no idea. I was there too, trust me. I'm still there at times. There's a lot of options you can do with Git. But going into the basic Git workflow, and this is what you guys probably already do at this point, but just kind of emphasize what you're doing. So you probably guys do something along the lines git add, name of the files, git commit, you probably do a git commit -m, right, with your message. So git commit -m, your message, and then git push. And then what exactly happened, you don't know, but now it's on GitHub. That's kind of probably more or less, you know, not trying to be offensive or anything, but like probably more or less like what you're feeling. And so what happens here, basically Git is worked into on your computer. There are 3 different spots. There's the working directory, there's the staging area, and there's the repository. And basically your repository is the thing that you are like backing up. Okay, so that's the stuff that like when you say a repo or a repository, that's what when we do a git push, we're pushing our repository to the website GitHub, okay, or Bitbucket or whatever you end up using. But for us, we use GitHub. So we're pushing that repository up to GitHub. So before we even do any pushes, like if I could draw on this, right, this would be repository and this would be a git push to like GitHub. Okay, so it'd be something like, I realize I actually can draw, so why not? Okay, so you can do like a git push here. So this would be git push, and this would be like the cloud, okay? So GitHub or something like this. And this would be like git push. All right, so that's kind of like the full picture. And then we'll talk about in a second is that git pull is when you pull the stuff from GitHub to your repository, okay? So everything else though is on your computer. So this on this right side is on your computer, okay? So there's 3 parts: the repository, which is what you're basically trying to back up. The staging area, basically it's like when you make changes, it's ready to be added to the repository. And the working directory, this is when you're actually making changes. So like if I make a change on here, I'm working on it. It's my working directory. And so we can take things changed from the working directory, the things that I've changed, put it into the staging area and say, all right, I'm making all these changes, add this file. Oh wait, I'm also adding this file too. Okay, and put this stuff, and that's in your staging area. And then going from the staging area, say, all right, I'm gonna commit to this change, this one logical change, and that goes into your repository. So that's essentially what's going on here, okay? So you can do a whole bunch of changes in your working directory, but nothing happens until you do git add, puts in the staging area, and then git commit basically saying, hey, I am committing to these changes. All right. Hopefully that kind of gives you a little understanding of why you're doing this right here. All right. There's also parts like git status and stuff like this. So I realize you guys can't see that. So for example, I'm going to move this over so I can kind of work over here. So what am I right now? Okay, so let me go up a couple directories. Okay, so this is actually a Git repo right now. So if I do actually git status, you will see that it'll say things like untracked files right here, okay? And you can see here, like, hey, you've made some changes to some files. You've made some new files and stuff like this, okay? I also, if I just add something random in here, okay, and I'll save it. And you'll see now if I do git status, you will see untracked files. Oh, wait, am I not? Oh, okay, I'm in here. Am I on the right one? Sorry, I'm talking to myself now. Oh, because I'm not I didn't commit to it yet. All right. Well, if I made changes, you would also see, say, hey, you want to add these parts. So you get your add, git commit, and all that stuff. So git status would say, hey, what stage, what's in the working directory, okay? Git diff allows you to basically see what has changed in your working directory right then. So if I want to do, for example, I'm trying to think of what I have right in here. Let's do, I'm going to cd into, sorry, I reorganized everything. So I'm kind of, let's see, Unix, no. NumPy. Okay, and let's just, I'm going to add some junk too. I'm adding some junk to the end of this file. Don't really matter what it is. But now if I do git status, you'll see I modified this intro to NumPy right here, okay? So if I do a git diff, you actually see what was the change for this file right here. And you can see here, it says, hey, there was a change for intro to NumPy right here. Here's a change, and it says ++, okay? So this would be like, hey, you made a change. If I did something different, if there was, I subtracted stuff, it'd be -, and you can probably see it's going to be red or something like that, okay? Okay, so that's kind of how you can quickly see like a change in differences. And it's a difference by default, it's the difference between your working directory and your most recent commit. So that's what's happening here with this git diff, okay? Now, if you want to see all your changes, which is always fun, okay, oops, oh, hand slip. If you do git log, this shows you all the changes you have. And basically it's like, whoa, that's huge. Basically, it's the same thing if I go to, let's see here, if I go to this actual resource here, is that you'll see if I go to commits, you can see all these different changes right here. You see CLI basics discussion, coding discussion practices. If I go to the other thing, you'll see CLI basics discussion, coding best practices, move OOP to data engineering. And you can see that's exactly what's happening here. This basically is just showing you all the different commits, and I can actually go through here and see all the different parts that have changed, okay? And you can see that colon here, I can just press Q, okay, and exit out of it. And you can see here, this right here is showing you what you've made a change through and what's been actually pushed up to the head. So sometimes you'll see different parts branched off to here. And this right here, this number, weird string of numbers and letters, this is like its special, it's called a hash. Basically, it's a special identifier. It says, this identifies the changes you have made. So what's really cool about Git is that it doesn't save your whole file every single time. It only saves these changes that you've made. And this basically represents all the different changes you have. So for example, if I want to, let's see if I can do this real quick. So if I want to say, hey, what are the differences between what I have in this commit, which is 5729, and this commit, this CD2F, whatever, right? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this so I can do it later. I can actually compare this change to this one and see what I actually changed between those two. So now if I do git diff, and you can see here, 5729. What's nice is that if it's small enough, I don't really have to type the whole thing. The difference between this commit and this commit, okay? And I just pasted that into here, okay? And say, hey, what's the changes? And you can see here is what I've changed. In this case, I subtracted a whole lot. You can also use spacebar to go through. You can see here, this is my command line basics. I subtracted a whole bunch of things in here, and you can basically compare different commits this way. So what's kind of cool is that I can go really far back, for example, and I can see there's a lot more changes. For example, if I compare this one here, git diff, oops. And you can see here all the different changes I have in here. I added some extra files and stuff like this, okay? In this case, code. But this is a way you can kind of compare two parts, especially if you know, oh, I had it on my old version, but I forgot to keep it. So this is kind of a cool way to kind of like make a comparison, okay? All right, so that's git diff and like how you can kind of look through things in your log, okay? Let's see here. So creating a repo, I'm not gonna go through this whole thing, but no, you guys probably know now, you can do a git clone, okay? So if you have a new directory, you can git clone into a local repo, your local machine, whether that's a new machine or whatever. You can also make a new directory directly from, what's it called? From the local side. And this is actually what the curriculum shows through is you do a git initiate, basically says, hey, this directory is a GitHub repo or a Git repo. And you do a git initiate, you add your files, you do your git commit, right? And then one thing you'd have to do is making sure you connect your local computer, your local repo to GitHub, which in this case, you have to actually make a new repo on GitHub, connect it with git remote add origin, and then you'd have this URL. What's nice is that when you make a new repo, it actually will show you this part. It's actually in the curriculum, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. Basically, you just copy that paste, put that in your own code, and basically now you can push it up to GitHub. So this is if you started off with making code directly on your local machine, and then you need to push it up to GitHub, okay? So, and then of course I mentioned you can get your changes by doing git pull, okay? This one, I mean, how you guys feel on this? Hopefully this actually looks really familiar because you guys do git clone probably pretty frequently. This again is walked through the curriculum too. If you're making a new repo that's not part of the curriculum, but you want to put on your GitHub profile, this is what you would do, okay? And cool. All right, so last part I do want to mention, okay, we have some time, good, is branches. So branches, to be frank, I think I might actually revisit this again because I kind of miscalculated how much time I'd spend. But branches basically know is that you can essentially create new features along these parts. So you can kind of say like, well, okay, like you can imagine these circles right here are all like commits. These are all different changes. So usually we talk about having the master branch, okay? And that's what you start off with. Everyone has a master branch, okay? And basically this shows you, you say, okay, maybe you first did your first initial commit, you made some changes, you did a bug fix, you know, all that stuff. And so one thing to do is just, you frequently just make changes, right? Okay. But sometimes you might say, hey, like, what if I try it this way? Well, you don't want to completely get rid of your code. You might switch onto a different branch and basically make a copy. It's kind of like what forking is on GitHub. Basically, you make a branch, say, oh, let me copy off this and make some changes that are completely separate from this master. So what this would look like, let's see if I can really quickly show you. The first thing to show you is like if you have any branches. So remember, oops, I realize you guys can't see that. Okay. Remember this is a repo right here. So I can actually do git branch, and this will actually show me all the branches on here. And you can actually see, hey, I have a test. Okay. And you can see here is that it'll actually show you which branch you're on. So for example, I can do git checkout, and I can switch my branch if it already exists. So git checkout master. And then you can see here, I can do git branch again, and you can see here, I'm now on the master branch, okay? If I want to make a new branch, what I just would do is do git checkout -b, and then say new branch, okay? So this would actually create a new branch from where I am right now, okay? So git checkout new branch, and you can see here, I now have a git, what was I gonna do? Sorry, git branch. And you can see here, I have a new branch and I'm on this part right here, okay? So what's kind of interesting is like I can actually make a new part on here. So let's say I do git, let's see here, git status. Let's see if we have any changes yet. And say, oh, okay, I have some changes. So git add, I'm gonna add everything. So you can see now git status, everything's in my, ready to be uploaded on there. So I say, okay, git commit, I'll just call it branch test. Okay. All right. So now if you see git log, you'll see is that I actually have this change right here. Okay. And what's interesting though is that, oops, git branch like this. You can see I'm not actually on this master. So you can see in my git log, there's a new commit here. But if I quit this and I do git checkout master to my main one, and I do git log, you actually see that that commit does not appear anymore. Okay, and so one thing you can do to kind of visualize some of these things that are going on, you can actually do a git log and then do a graph. And I provided some extra stuff so it's still easier to see. So if I do this guy, this will actually show us all the changes, and you can actually see when there were branches on here, and you can see where changes have happened. So you can see here every time there's a change. And this is some of the old stuff I had where I branched out and did some merging and stuff like this. But one thing I could do is do git checkout, was it new branch? Right, is it new branch? I'm gonna say it's new branch. Yes, okay, good. So then if I do git log right here, and you can see, oops, wow, it's really hard to see this. You can actually see here is that I have a new branch on this part. So there's actually, you can see here, this is the new branch, but there's also the master, origin, test, master. These are my other branches right here. And you can actually split off these different parts and merge them together. So I'm not gonna go through it right now, because honestly, if I try to go through it really quickly, it probably wouldn't come out very well and you guys would be more confused than needed. Atlassian actually has a really great visual tutorial. So this is where actually this resource comes from. I think I might talk about this again in the future, but no, it basically can go through a whole bunch of this, like Git branches and going through. And of course, our curriculum actually has a lot of this detail too. But if you wanted to go through a little more stuff too, Atlassian is a really good one that talks about Git. Just know that they use Bitbucket. That's their product. So just know they might reference Gitbucket. You just replace with Bitbucket with GitHub, and it's the same thing. We can see here is that you can talk about why you do these things. Okay. Any quick questions of why you would use branches or anything like that? Oops. Sorry, I have this stuff right here. Okay.
How does that work on your local machine? Mm-hmm. So do you just overwrite what you're working on and then go back up to the repo and pull down again?
So what's kind of cool is that Git basically allows you to keep what they call a hash. Basically, if you're actually familiar with, like, if anyone here talks about Bitcoin, stuff like that, Bitcoin does this kind of very similar idea where you have a hash. Basically, it's a very streamlined part that just says, hey, what are the changes from this previous commit? So when I make a commit from here to here, basically it says, hey, there's some stuff right here, and I make some changes, save these changes as essentially like a really condensed file. And then what's interesting is that if you do a branch from here to here, you actually say, oh, I made some different kind of changes and condense those changes into a different kind of file. And that's essentially how it's able to keep these changes going through. So it's not actually deleting or even like saving all of your work. It's just saving all of the work from the previous commit. And then obviously goes all the way back to the original first commit, if that makes sense. So when you actually ask it to say, hey, switch over, it's not deleting in a way. It might seem like it is, but really what it's doing is like, hey, load up the changes from along this branch, or load up the changes from this branch, or load up the changes from this commit. You can actually check out specific commits too, if you wanted to go back on stuff, which again, there's a whole lot more I could talk about on this kind of going through. But hopefully that kind of answered your question, Andrew.
Sort of. I think I'd have to see it in practice.
Yeah, I think one I actually would strongly recommend, I think I've mentioned this before, is, let me just look it up on here. Udacity, I can't type today. Git, let's see. I need to look. It's these girls right here who did it. It's a free course online. Like I highly recommend it, because to be honest, that's how I learned it. That's not it. I'm trying to, whatever this one is. If you recognize these ladies going through it, they're the ones who actually do it. And I think they do a great job of showing, here it is, okay. It's how to use Git and GitHub. There's another one called like something else. I don't know, probably a beginner's guide. I don't know what this is. But this course right here, it's free. It says approximately 3 weeks. You could probably go through it faster. But one thing, they really show you how like the function works. I'm sending it over on this, I'll send it over on Slack right now so you guys have it. But I really recommend that one. I think it's a really useful, I mean, to be honest, it taught me how to use Git like properly. Like I think seeing it in practice, which was a big part, besides it being just theoretical. Yeah, and then also I like the tutorials from Atlassian too, because they do a pretty good job on showing the visual. So what my suggestion is read through the curriculum on section 2 and kind of get a feel for like what you need to do. And then if you want to learn more, which I honestly doing more Git can only be beneficial to you on how to work with teams and stuff like this, and even just work with yourself and making sure you keep a version control system useful. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that kind of ends everything. I guess our time a little bit. I have to kind of check out. But I think this is something, well, let me ask you guys, would you guys like to go over this sometime in the future, maybe more about branches or stuff like that, or maybe not in the near future, but somewhere down the future, since you guys are here? Anyone have any thoughts or ideas? No? Okay.